Let's review. Let's review about Nest Load SDG 5.
So today we're going to tackle the global mission for gender equality, but we're going to do it by looking at a really fascinating paradox. We're zooming in on a country that, believe it or not, has all the right laws on the books, but in the real world is one of the toughest places on earth to be a woman. Okay, let's get into it. So I want to start with this question because it really gets to the core of what we're talking about today. What happens when the laws written on paper just don't match up with the reality people are living every single day? We are about to unpack that exact problem. All right, so before we dive head first into this paradox, we need to set the stage a little bit. What is the world actually aiming for when we talk about gender equality? What's the big picture goal? Well, it's all wrapped up in this: Sustainable Development Goal 5, or SDG 5 for short. The mission? To achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And the key phrase here is cross-cutting. That means this isn't just one goal on a long list. No, it's foundational. You literally can't solve poverty or hunger or climate change if you don't also achieve gender equality. It's that important. So yeah, it's this huge, ambitious goal for the entire planet. But that's the view from 30,000 feet, right? The real story, the much more complicated story, is what happens when a big idea like this meets the messy reality of a single country. And that brings us to our case study, Pakistan. And I'm just going to say, you might want to brace yourselves because the data we're about to see, well, it's pretty shocking. Okay, so every year, the World Economic Forum drops its Global Gender Gap Report. It's this massive checkup on gender equality across the globe. So, out of 146 countries they looked at, take a guess, where do you think Pakistan landed on that list? 145th. Second to last in the entire world. Just let that sink in for a second. That's not just a low score. That number represents a massive, deep chasm between that global goal we just talked about and the actual lived experience of millions of women. So what does a number like 145 out of 146 actually mean in the real world for daily life? Let's break down some of the biggest challenges on the ground. And wow, this chart just lays it out so clearly. You can see that over 80% of men are part of the labor force. But for women, that number just plummets to around 24%. I mean, that is a huge pool of talent, of potential, that's just being left on the sidelines. And the problem goes way deeper than just jobs. We're talking about huge financial exclusion. Millions of women who don't even have a simple bank account. And get this, even when the law gives them rights to property and inheritance, deep-seated cultural norms often mean they never see it. The end results? Near total economic dependency. But it's not just about money. There's also the devastating issue of widespread gender-based violence. The problem isn't just the violence itself, though. It's the fact that the system itself seems broken when it comes to getting justice. And this chart, wow, it just says it all. Look at that tiny, tiny sliver of convictions, just half of 1%. When 99.5% of cases of violence against women end with no conviction, it creates what experts call a culture of impunity. Basically, it sends a terrifying message that you can get away with it. And finally, let's talk political power. Now, on the surface, it looks like there's some progress. Women hold 17% of seats in the National Assembly because of a quota system. But here's the catch. That doesn't mean real influence. When you look at the cabinet and minister roles, the jobs with actual decision-making power, that number drops to only about 6%. So, okay, the picture we've painted looks pretty bleak, right? Dismal rankings, huge economic and social barriers. The conclusion seems obvious. But this is where our story takes a really sharp, really unexpected turn. Looking at all that data, your first thought is probably, well, they must have terrible laws, or maybe no laws at all to protect women's rights. It's a totally logical assumption. But here's the thing. It's completely wrong. And this right here is the paradox. Believe it or not, on paper, Pakistan has an impressively strong legal framework. I mean, its constitution flat out guarantees equality and says women must participate fully in national life. And beyond that, you've got strong, specific laws against workplace harassment, laws to enforce property rights, and even acts to reform how rape cases are handled. The laws are absolutely there. And it's not just laws either. There are dedicated government bodies like this one, the National Commission on the Status of Women.
Their entire reason for existing is to review these laws, keep an eye on how they're being used, and tell the government how to do better. Okay, so if the laws are there and the official institutions are there, where is the disconnect? What is going so wrong? This brings us to the final and most crucial part of our explainer, this massive, frustrating gap between the law and its implementation. To really get what this implementation gap means, it actually helps to look at something that is working. Take the Benazir Income Support Program, or BISP. It's a really powerful example. You see, it works because it bypasses a lot of the usual barriers by putting small cash payments directly into the hands of millions of the poorest women. It gives them economic power, real autonomy, often for the very first time. And here's another great example, the Lady Health Workers Program. This is a government initiative that employs over 100,000 women. It gives them an income, a respected role in their towns and villages, all while they deliver essential health care. These programs prove that real progress is definitely possible. And this brings us right to the heart of the paradox. The fundamental problem in Pakistan isn't a lack of good laws on the books. It's a chronic, systemic failure to enforce those laws, to make them a reality for the women they were written to protect. So what's really standing in the way? Well, it pretty much boils down to these three massive forces: deep-rooted patriarchal norms in society that just resist change, a lack of consistent political will to actually push for that change, and a justice system that, as we saw, is often tragically unresponsive. These are the things that keep good laws stuck on paper. And so that leaves us with this huge final question. And it's not just a question for Pakistan, but for any society that's trying to change. When you've already built the framework, when the good laws already exist, what does it really take to turn those words on a page into a lived, breathing reality for everyone?
Thanks for your time to learn, earn, and lead. This is Mohammad Zishan Awan, Advocate High Court. To join Vision 2047, please register with us and be part of the transformation.